Well, welcome to the Edinburgh Bookshop on the sofa with Daniel Mella. It's so nice to have you here. We love to stock the Charco Press books, but obviously we don't often get to meet the authors. It's a long old way, so really happy to have you. Welcome to the Edinburgh Bookshop.
Thank you.
And would you please read a little from your book, Older Brother?
I'll start by the beginning. His death will fall on the 9th of February, always 2 days before my birthday. Alejandro will be 31 years old in the early morning of that day, whose light he will never see. The day will go from being 4 siblings to 3. I, the oldest son, will be about to turn 38. That same morning, Mom, 64, sitting beside me in dark glasses, says, "Why him when he liked life so much? Why Ale when so many other people go around complaining about things all the time?" On the back porch of my parents' house, while Dad, 69, and Marcos, 27, are on their way to Playa Grande to identify the body, I brew mate for the guests, the cousins, the aunts and uncles, several neighbors. Since no one sits still, I have trouble remembering the order the gourd should be passed around in. Mum wasn't far off the mark. "You're right," I tell her. "It should have been me." She huffs. She didn't mean that, but I tell her that it would have been entirely fitting, right? After all, who's the pessimist around here? I ask her. "Why does everything always have to be about you?" "The truth is, I don't know what's got it into you lately. You were better, but lately I just don't know." I ask her when the last time she saw me happy was. But happy like Alejandro, I say, bursting with happiness. Every stew he ate was the best stew he'd ever had. Remember? If he rode a wave, it was the best wave of his life. Have you ever seen me completely happy? Mom looks at me for a few seconds. I can't see her eyes behind the glasses. Her hands are resting on her knees and her foot taps a nervous rhythm. "I can't think right now," she says. "Because it's not easy to remember," I tell her. "But when was the last time you saw Alejandro happy? I'm sure Ale was happy the last time you saw him, and the time before that too, and the time before that. Wasn't he the happiest guy you knew?" Yes and no. I always thought that Ale had a sadness deep inside him. The life he led, no commitments. But who doesn't have that? Who isn't always a little sad deep down? Really though, you can't argue that Alejandro wasn't the best equipped for life out of all of us. Who else had those shoulders? You remember how broad his chest was? He was a lion. He was solar. I remember his hugs. I remember how he used to call me Mumsy, says Mum. Everyone remembered his hugs. Alejandro hugged everyone. He liked to wrap you in the immensity of his body. He did it to show off. He'd hug you so you'd feel his muscles. He'd hug you till you felt the bulge through his trousers.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I will try not to cry. So, you told me earlier you have heard of Dr Seuss, which is brilliant.
Oh yeah, totally.
And makes this hat look less strange, hopefully.
Yeah.
This is the Cat in the Hat
I feel
hat.
like I'm back in my childhood. Yeah.
We are huge fans of Dr Seuss here, as well as translated South American fiction, of course. So could you please pick your first question from the hat?
What else are you doing while in Edinburgh? Well, drinking and walking around. I feel like I'm in a Harry Potter movie. Yeah, it only happened to me with New York that I felt like the first time I stepped into New York, I was like all the cinematic, fictional thing about New York was there. Like I was in some sort of other world. Same has happened since I stepped in Edinburgh. Like, oh, this is like somewhere I know this from somewhere, like from literature, from movies. So I'm pretty excited to just like look around. Everything seems like I'm remembering it.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Suddenly the stories make sense, don't they?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Next question.
Who or what best supports your writing? I think my children support my writing, maybe because they haven't read me yet, but they sort of love that I write. When I'm writing, they usually get this because I've told them, but also because I think they see that I'm in a sort of ritual mode, in the silent mode. They usually share the same space with me, and they start either reading or drawing or even writing. They're kind of proud that their dad is a writer. So I would say, like, for these last 5 or 6 years, since my kids have been more aware, I take I feel a lot of support from them. And then probably the place I live in, which is very quiet. It's like a little coastal town. With a lot of birds and trees and like the beach. So I think I found the right place to write, to lead a writing life.
Yeah. Nice. Another question?
What is your favorite aspect of the writing process? It's hard to choose because I love the like from beginning to end. Maybe the part I struggle with the most is when chaos happens. When usually at the very beginning everything is pretty chaotic, and you sort of want it to finally find its order and its flow. Even though I've been through that many times, it's still hard for me to get used to it. To accept it. Say, look, so now I'm chaotic. I don't know if this is going anywhere. I'm just like taking down notes and creating this sort of magma of information and scenes and thoughts. Sort of gives me this sort of anxiety, which I still don't know how to manage. Lately, I've been taking like some sort of measures which are don't sit in front of the computer. Just like do something, wash the dishes, sweep the floors, So that's where usually the order will come or inspiration will come when my mind is distracted or focused in something else than writing.
Yes.
So everything becomes writing.
Yes.
In a way, even doing your chores becomes part of writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the productive task helps you just to work it through rather than staring at the screen going, the mess is so big and so deep and so wide.
And I think I think then the part that I like the most is when it finally clicks. When you suddenly for some reason have the answer to that question that was bothering you, like how do I continue, or how is this supposed to go on? From that moment on, everything is like downhill. Is that the way you say it? Like, because it's
plain sailing. You might say.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Plain sailing, and you're like, okay, then there's not much else that you have to do. Just sit down and write. You know what I mean? Because everything is kind of already taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that part.
Nice. Yeah. What are you most proud of with older brother?
I guess I'm proud that I could pull it off. I think it was the hardest book for me to write, and I didn't know. There came a point where I got really stuck, and sort of existential crisis. Also because of the subject matter. It was my brother my brother's death. But suddenly, in the middle of that crisis, I had a dream with my brother, and he sort of gave me a hand from the other side. He was like, don't forget all the things you hated about me, he told me. So he sort of authorized me to portray him not as a hero, but as a human being. He allowed me to portray myself also with all my pettiness, and portray our relationship as it was, which was full of love and full of humor, but also competitive because we're brothers, and I think I not proud, grateful. I think I feel, what I mean. I think this book helped me to sort of flip that notion where sometimes you feel proud of your work, but that seems to be very heavy when you're proud of something. You know what I mean? When you flip it and you become grateful for it, it's like a relief. Okay, it's because really you're not really so much in charge. You're more like a servant of some sort.
Ego gets out of the way.
Ego gets out of the way. You're like, I'm so lucky that I'm even able to write, that I'm even able to have an idea, that I even have the time to do that.
No less than that.
Yeah, totally.
Now, I never know if this is a fair question or not, having just been focused on this book, but what is next for you?
I hope what I'm writing now, I'm in that stage which I don't like that much, of the chaos. I feel like I'm about to break out of it and really start plain sailing. I want to write a love story. I want to try that out. I'm trying that out. Trying to deal with like the cliches and sort of that thin line that separates bad writing from good writing. Because it's also true. You have feelings that are very cliche in a way. So how do you express that without distorting it so much that it becomes unrecognizable? How do you walk that fine line? I'm trying that out.
Nice. Well, we look forward to that. Hope it's going to come in translation here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in to the bookshop today. It's been lovely to meet you, and Older Brother is out now in your local friendly bookshop, so go buy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Daniel.
Thanks.